pleasant good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Tonight, our hot topics include the bombing of HMBS FLAMINGO. Yes, we're still in the month of May. 4 people were killed. That's Marines, seafarers, shipmates. What else we call them? Whatever. They were killed during that incident. Subsequent to that incident, 4 crew members, Marines, seafarers, passed on. Today, amongst us, there are 11 crew members, shipmates, seafarers from that HMBS FLAMINGO still living and alive amongst us. We have seen loads of recognition extended by way of the government as far as queen's honors and that type of thing, and we have a celebration every year where all 11 of the ones still living don't even want to attend. I can tell you because I speak with them. But what we need to see is the $3 million reparation. Where is the money? We want to be satisfied that the 11 devastated crew members still living amongst us and the family of the 8 that has already passed on are compensated for the undeserved suffering that ensued over the past 43 years. Where is the reparation? Another hot topic we're going to be discussing tonight is when the government is now in a position to remove shanty homes via the Building Regulations Act. So we have a building code and we have a whole regulations on how houses should be built, what strength should they be, what approvals they require. All of us build houses. Come on, we know the deal. The first thing you need is your permit number. So Attorney General Ryan Pinder recently said the Davis administration would demolish shantytown structures using the process outlined in the Buildings Regulation Act. This is after the Supreme Court failed to deliver a favorable result to the government when they decided only 2 shanty homes are to be taken down out of hundreds, maybe thousands. So we finally stumbled across an effective way to rid the country of these illegally erected structures. They were going up all our lives, and now they morphed into going up by the tens and the hundreds, and those kayak videos that we have watching them from ground and nothing being done. Okay, Mr. Government, now we realize, and we should have realized from day one, we have the regulation. It always been in place. When are we going to apply it? We like the rhetoric, Mr. AG. Love your rhetoric. But what we need is the timeline from the Ministry of Works. Let's get this action started. Why delay? Why? Okay. Number 3 on our list tonight. Hot topics, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, these topics hot. Plans for building code overhaul to be revealed by September. Okay, so you're going to reveal the plans. You ain't say you overhaul it by September now, Mr. Minister of Works. You were saying that the overhaul of the building code plans will be revealed by September. Okay, so you need plans. And guess what? We're so concerned about overhauling the... We be happy with it the way it is now as far as dealing with those shanty towns. But yes, I agree. The hurricanes are getting bigger. They're getting stronger. So we need to beef it up some more. But that even makes the shanty towns worse. So that's cool, Mr. Minister. But when we are going to apply the existing building code to the existing shanty towns that remain in violation? When, sir? When? Yeah, a little hot tonight. Now, number 4. The private sector. They say that this is from our good Minister of Labor, Minister of Immigration. It says that the private sector help will be needed as far as we're going to change our laws pertaining to employment of foreign nationals, something to that effect. It says the Ministry of Labor and Immigration is asking for the help of the private sector to determine the way forward for a number of legislative changes being considered. Okay, so you're considering making some changes, but even before you make those changes, we need to apply what is there, sir. I have no problems with you making the changes. But why we want to change what's there? What is this? Are we talking about existing law? Shouldn't the private sector simply fall in line with what is law? What input could they possibly have? There is absolutely no need for the law to be watered down or revised. The laws are to be applied, Mr. Minister, as intended. Private sector simply has to seek out Bahamians to take on those roles that they have so comfortably kept away from our counterparts. No pampering these private sector, Minister Bell. No, sir. Simply put, if they have the option of taking advantage of foreign labor over utilizing Bahamians, that is what they will continue to do. But if they know that that is no longer an option, then they will do whatever is necessary to utilize Bahamian labor. No option should even be considered. Mr. Bell, we ain't considering no option here. Let's get on with the country's business and apply the law as it is. Why we gotta pamper these business people? I'm a businessman, ain't nobody pamper. I don't want nobody pampering me. If the law say I gotta use a Bahamian, I gotta use a Bahamian. If the law say you need a certain permit to do this job, then you need a certain permit to do this job. Yes, it says you got to have a Bahamian understudy, so get the Bahamian understudy. But where Bahamians could be used, especially in those low-hanging fruit jobs, those construction jobs, those little stores where they sell little food, fast food and that type of thing. You don't need nothing but Bahamians in those areas. You trying to tell me they can't find Bahamians to work in those areas? No. That's not the case. They could pay less and probably get better performance from the non-Bahamians. But that's not what this country should be about. Bahamians first, Mr. Minister. Bahamians first. So let's not let these private sectors dictate or even have too much input on how this law should be applied or causing us to make changes so that they can continue doing what they're doing, which is hiring foreigners at the expense of Bahamians not working. Some Bahamians don't even want to apply for certain jobs. They don't even want to get into that because, they can use the foreigners because the foreigners will wait for change, number one. And the foreigners, they could direct the foreigners and take advantage of them, number two. But this is the Bahamas, my friend. This is the Bahamas, and we need to take our country back. And I using nobody else's words. I using my words. We need to get this thing right. We have the laws in place. Let's apply them. I am a law enforcer. I don't know nothing else but enforcing what's on the books. I don't care about what ain't on the books. Yes, let's put it on the books, then enforce it some more. But let's enforce let's stop pampering the situation. We in this Bahamas need to get serious and apply and that's across the board. That's across the board. That ain't only with immigration and employment. That's with police as well. They got on the books, lock up people with bicycles, they should have them licensed. Make sure they licensed or lock them up. We got to start from the low-hanging fruits so that people can know we're serious. Let's get it right. Moving on down the line. Yes, I hot tonight. New cruise port. A major step forward in the transformation of Nassau. We know that this new cruise port is off the chain. I mean, I haven't been in there yet, and I am just so impressed with what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing on TV. It's very impressive. And I applaud the government for causing and aiding such a situation. But I'm not happy with the way it happened. From day one, I tell you, I'm not happy that global ports are going to be making all the money and taking it out of this country. That shouldn't have to happen. And we be blowing our whistles and horn like, oh, this is the best thing that ever happened since sliced bread. Yes, but the money going out of the country. Why? Because some people want to get a couple dollars on the side. We know what's going on in this country, you know. We're not fool. We're not fool. But okay, it looks good. It looks really good. So our Prime Minister said in his opening statement that the new cruise port is a major step forward in the transformation of Nassau. The new port is a wonderful improvement to what was, eh? We know what was. What wasn't too nice to look at. Even Bay Street was better than what was. Now we're saying Bay Street got to pull his socks up. So yes, let's straighten out Bay Street to augment the new construction. But what about our waterfront that can be converted to be a thing of wonder? Our harbor waterfront walk from Nassau Cruise Port to Porter's Key. How beautiful would it be to just walk along the water? You ain't worried about no car, you ain't worried about no noise. You just walk and you put a walk path along the water. And we can do it, Mr. Government. They do it everywhere else in the world. We're no different. And that's not a long walk. They got miles and miles of harbor front walks in certain cities. We only talking about a mile and a half, 2 miles the most. Why we can't make that happen? To augment what just happened with the new port. Or from the Nassau Cruise Port to Fish Fry. Why we can't have a harbor walk along the water? And of course, when you reach the beach, you got to come in. Because we ain't trying to stop our pretty sand on our beach. We want to come in and we can make the road wide if we have to. Hey, we just put $300 million raised in the Bahamas for this new port. We can raise another half of that if the Bahamians are going to own it. Yeah? Let's put some money and make it even better. Let's have harbor walks from the port going east and going west. What about the zip line ride that can take you to both those destinations? So if they side them or walk, they want to take a ride. But of course, you go up in the elevator and you get on the zip line. And the zip line is about 40 feet high in the air. And you could see all of Nassau. And you could see all of the harbor. And you could see all the oceans. And you're just riding along from Nassau Cruise Port to Arawak Key, way up in there. We can make that happen if RCI, the cruise line, excuse me, running a little too hot. If RCI, the cruise line, could put a zip line that runs along their private key. Which one that is? Coco Key. They say a perfect day at Coco Key. People go there, they pay to go on the zip line, they go up and they're looking around the whole key and all the beaches and all the oceans, and Nassau Harbor prettier than that, I can tell you, because I haven't been there. So let's get our zip line going both directions. One going to Fish Fry, the other one going to Porter's Key. And when we reach Porter's Key, we want you to be able to go on the Nassau Flyer. What is the Nassau Flyer? You ever hear about the Singapore Flyer? Or on the Thames River in London, they have something called, what's it called? The London Eye. If you only see these things, Google it, please. Google the Singapore Flyer, Google the London Eye. These things go like 200 feet in the air. It's a big round Ferris wheel. And people pay drolls of money. Hey, you're talking about thousands of people coming in our port every day. You don't think they would like to go in one of those flyers, we'll call it the Nassau Flyer, and take their time while they just see every aspect of our island and our waters, our beautiful waters surrounding this island, and Paradise Island, and Cable Beach, and outside, you even could see Albany if you go in that. Beautiful yachts, beautiful waters, beautiful harbor, cruise ships, fish fry. The porters keep minding look good, but you see the two bridges? You'll see all of these things on the Nassau Flyer. So, Mr. Government, let's get our act together, man. Let's use some intuition. Come on, man. Surely we could do better and make Nassau an A-class destination. And we could do it from the water, we could do it from the ship. Now we have the harbor, and then you just take the water on two sides. You ain't got to go on Bay Street. Well, I mean, who want to go on Bay Street could go. But why are we trying to fix up Bay Street? Bay Street is a thing of the past. Let's use our waterfront. Bay Street could fix up themselves. These tourists ain't really want to go on Bay Street. They want to be around the water all the time. And we have that. Mr. Government, you could do this. So let's make Nassau Harbor A-class. Okay, let me quiet down a little bit. We're going to go to the Royal Caribbean Opens Recruitment Center at The Point. So RCI has opened a recruitment center at The Point downtown to carry out ongoing recruitment for ships and its private island, Coco Key. You know how many ships RCI have? You know how many ships Carnival have? So if RCI is going to open recruitment for their ships, and they don't only employ people to throw rope and to navigate and to go in the engine room. No, they got restaurants. We have plenty waiters and busboys and cooks and chefs. They hire all these things. All we need is 1 foot in the door, and we have that. We have that with RCI, because RCI is building their clubhouse, and the government is hand in hand with them, and they getting what they want. And RCI doing what they want to do on Coco Key. And RCI may be doing some other stuff. Something coming up in Freeport. They got a big area they portion off of RCI. RCI is they're part of us. So while they're part of us, and they got all those big ships out there, the largest ships in the world belong to RCI. 6 largest, and they building more. You know how much jobs that is for us? I don't think RCI really care. But who's the waiter, you know? They don't really care. All they want to know is you're going to bring quality service as a waiter. And ain't nobody in the world could beat us doing quality service when it comes to restaurants. Come on, man. I mean, we may have dropped off a bit because what they used to do back in the day when they teach the busboy which hand to serve the food with, which hand to clean with, how to speak to guests, how to keep their arm clean. We don't do that no more. But that don't mean we cannot do it. We could go into the high schools and do these things. And when these children ready to graduate, they go straight on the ship. All we need is a little intuition and a little help from our friends, the Bahamas Maritime Authority, and our government. And this will happen. RCI shouldn't be the one to be pushing us for that. We just slack. Our Ministry of Transport, slack. Our Bahamas Maritime Authority, slack. Our Port Department, slack. I know, because those are areas that I worked. That ain't nothing change. But we need to change it, Mr. Government. Let's get it changed and let's do some things for our Bahamians from high school level. Ain't no reason why we got to go through all of this. This is what we need. Bahamians being trained to take up those posts on the cruise ship at private islands, on board the cruise ships, and, of course, in the clubhouse. And more than RCI might want to do this, you know. You see, Disney doing a lot of things. Carnival's the way put me. Carnival got a port building in Freeport. Carnival want to get a little leverage. Let's give them a little leverage, but let them know we now in bed, and you gotta hire some Bahamians, and you gotta give us some priority, and we gotta have BMA kick in, and we got port department kick in, and I know Minister Glennis Anna Martin already kicked in from years ago, from decades ago. She kicked in. She told me that she had the Bahamas Maritime Authority Ship Owners Association on board with hiring Bahamians. Whatever happened to that idea? Why that didn't happen? You know who hired most of the Bahamians in this country after they became qualified? It was Mr. Lowell Mortimer. And I can call his name. I know he don't like this the people gain him all these accolades. Lowell Mortimer, in his infinite wisdom, with the company was managing all these ships. I can't even remember the name now, it's so hot. But anyway, somebody can call me and let me know. But he made provisions for Bahamians to link to those bulk carriers. He made provision for $30 million. Or was it $28 million? Well, that's 30 anyhow. To be spent at LJM Maritime Academy to equip it. You know what kind of equipment that place have? Millions and millions of dollars worth of equipment. All we got to do now is get Bahamian to go through those doors to get on those cruise ships. But before we do that, we need to make sure when they go through those doors, there's a link for them to get on the cruise ship. Come on, BMA, that's your job. You are mandated by law to provide opportunities for Bahamians to be hired in the maritime sector, and you don't do it. I know you're obligated by law because I know what the books say. So, we saw what Disney did in Saudi Lutra when they kick off and join hands with BTVI. We saw what they did. They're actually training locals in Saudi Lutra at an establishment in Saudi Lutra that BTVI and Disney caused to happen for that operation down there. And that's how we roll in. Cocoa Key, Stirrup Key, Half Moon Key, Princess Key, Castaway Key, Ocean Key, and now Lighthouse Point. All these private islands need Bahamian workers. And you know what? You go on most of these private islands, you know what you see? More than 50% foreigners working on those keys, and that's wrong. And I know the cruise ships know that wrong. And I know the Ministry of Transport entities, particularly Port Department, because they have to go there and inspect those vessels and those jet skis and those non-motorized stuff. They go there every year to inspect, and they see them bunch of foreigners. I see they even have foreigners working in the security area, in charge of security on those keys. Come on, man. That's a job reserved for Bahamians. When is the Port Department and the compliance unit going to get it right? You all just go there all the time and allow this and accept this nonsense. Get your act together. This ain't going to stop no time soon. All I can tell you is get your act together. Protect this Bahamas for Bahamians. That's what we should be all about. Well, that's what I all about. I tired of this foolishness. So, to my listening audience out there, please be sure to stay tuned as we delve into discussion on these maritime matters. I just list off a couple, you know. There's plenty more. Shout out to my number one fan, Annie Mae, up there in Free. Annie Mae, hi, honey. You are 90 and rocking on steady, honey. I talked to you yesterday. You sound so good. Every time I talk to you, I feel good, honey, mate. Just keep that going. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I know some of y'all want to call in. Yo, I can give you a chance in a minute, but let me get down to a little bit of business for you, say. Today, we held a memorial service at Coral Harbor Base for my good friend and fellow Defense Force Senior Officer Samuel "The Buck" Tony Evans. Buck, as we close to him affectionately refer to him, was quite the achieved Marine, starting out as a Marine recruit and paving his way all the way up to Deputy Commodore. That is unusual, but the Buck did it. I can attest to you tonight, dear listener, that the Buck was a mountain of a man, a genuine human being. There is testimony after testimony of how he personally influenced and helped individuals to positive progression within and outside of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. Many spoke to his motto, stay in the ocean and you'll get your promotion. Something like that. I believe that's what they say. Stay in the ocean and you can get your promotion. In other words, stay in deep water, because when you come in shallow water, you run the man below the ground. Why should he promote you? You know, this is where Tony and I differed. Because I was a deliberate chance taker when it comes to operating on the high seas. And those that would have sailed with me while I was in the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, they would know that I was all about breaking and setting navigation and ship island records. I didn't think nobody could do anything I couldn't do with those boats. One night, I watched as Commander Bachelet LaFleur, my good friend, God bless his soul. Some people think he couldn't die, but I know he died because I know his family well. And Batch was a no runaway man. I watched Batch flawlessly take the HMBS Marlin into Elizabeth Harbor. From the ocean to the dock at 20 knots, pitch dark, using only radar navigation and conning the helmsman. This maneuver stunned me. I was like, wow, I didn't think that was possible. You know, just come at the ocean, go round that reef, go over all them shallow water, and don't raise them troll till you reach the dock. I watched Batch do that. And I never seen any other officer in my entire time in the Defense Force do that. So, what you think I did? When it was my turn, as I was the commanding officer of the HMBS Yellow Elder for a couple years, I repeated that daredevil act, but using 27 knots, smashing the 20-knot record set by Batch by 7 knots. I think it's safe to say, dear listener, that would be the record for decades to come. And I ain't bragging, I'm just telling you I wasn't easy, right? Or even till the next daredevil shows up in the Defense Force, my record will stand. Well, somebody may break it, but boy, if you got to be doing more than 27 knots on a big patrol craft. I know I'm a little speedboat, anybody could do that. But this was not the way of the Buck. And this was not the way of the Stallion. You see, you can't call Buck without Stallion, except in this case where he died. Stallion's still among us, and Stallion is a good man. Stallion's my boy. You, the Stallion and the Buck, they can stay in deep water. They're not going to take them chances. No, 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 no. Those guys were not taking them kind of chances with the man boat. Not to mention with their promotion. But you know, nobody really speak much about the way the Buck was in love with playing checkers. Let me say this. Other than myself and Bachelor Floor, I think Buck loved checkers more than everybody else on the job. He and I played for hours on end. We sometimes moved from patrol craft to patrol craft, just trying to beat out the other. I love to play with Batch because I I will always win more games than Bachelor Floor. Boy, but he liked to play. I didn't like playing so much with Stallion and Clarence and Chappelle Wims and Orlando Forbes and Rabbi, and I don't like playing with them because they usually win more games than me. I never used to be to see. I like to brag and I like to carry on bad. But the Buck, man, he and I could play for hours on end trying to see who can come out on top. Me and him was like equal. That's why I like play with him so much. So to my good friend, Captain Samuel Tony the Buck Evans, I say, take your rest, my dear friend. You will be sadly missed by many. May your soul continue to rest in peace, and my respect and continuing condolences go out to Ginger, his wife, for all those many years. Anytime you ran the Buck, you will know about Ginger. And I know Ginger know how he loved her. And of course, to his wonderful daughter Jade, my good buddy, my daughter's best friend, my grandson's good godmother. Enough respect. Tony Buck Evans. What a man. Our sponsors for the night show, ladies and gentlemen, our one-on-one pharmacy. You know the deal with them. You just walk in the door and they treat you with royalty. Fill your prescription at the store or send your refills via the online site oneononepharmacy.com. That's all one word, all lowercase, oneononepharmacy.com. The two locations are East Street South, and of course, the second location is Charles Sanders Highway. When you walk in the door, they treat you with utmost royalty. There's a third location, as all of you should know by now, in Freeport, Island Care. Same good treatment. Little small inside, but everything you want is in there. So check out Island Care to all my Freeport listeners for whatever you need when it comes to pharmaceuticals. We are also sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection. We provide a full slate of ISPS Maritime Security Services, Port Facility Assessment Plan, Annual Verification Audits, ISPS trainings, consultancy, etc. To the listening audience out there, I am accompanied tonight by the one and only, the greatest producer around this town. But, he's in studio with me again. The man of the hour, the man with all the power. He is fully able, quite capable. I bring to you all the way from the great city of Nassau, and he just came back because he's been away doing some kind, I don't know what. The one and only, Craig Gibson. Yes, he want me talking business, but you know how we roll. You're listening to Maritime Matters, people. On this show, we talk maritime. Maritime Matters airs weekly at 19:30 every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. Was to highlight persons that made significant contributions to the maritime in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. We also cover current maritime issues from a domestic perspective and from an international maritime feed. Halfway through the show, we will open the phone lines. The number to call, and I know some of you are ready to call, so we can open it in a minute. The number to call will be 326-8255. That's 326-8255. As you all know, May is our month to remember. May 10th have come and gone again, dear listeners. And of course, our most important maritime heroes has to be in the spirit of HMBS Flamingo crew. The full 19 crew members of HMBS Flamingo on that fatal final voyage. You would have heard last week, we went in depth. I had Eugene Blue Thompson in here, and we went in depth how those bullets were chipping through some of the coveralls, how they were falling just in front of him and in the water, and what they had to do to survive. And I don't want to go on about how they were ill-treated after that incident, not given any reparation agreement, because we don't know the deal on that. And we're not going to stop until they get what they deserve. As we are now a few short days following the 43rd anniversary of that bombing of HMBS Flamingo, in honor of the men that had to bear the travesty of this tragic incident, I wish to extend a general salute. And how we say it in the military, general salute. Present arms. It's when the salutes go up. And when the salute is gone up and the national anthem is played, the order would be guard, shoulder, arms. And that's when the salute comes down, eh? And in honor of those 8 men that have fallen thus far, represent the last call, followed by the 21 gun salute. So stand by for the last call.
Honor guard, attain, hit, port, arms, half right, loose, unlock, rifles, prepare to fire, ready, aim, fire, ready, aim, fire, ready, aim, fire.
In the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I want to roll away.
Welcome back to Maritime Matters. I guess I run a little hot there. You know, I don't usually run hot, but boy, sometimes when you think about these things, you really gotta run hot. Too much slackness going on in this country. So we heard the last call, and we heard the 21 gun salute. And I told you about the general salute for these men. Men that lost their lives while trying to defend for our country. That's not common in this country. So here's our roll call for the 19 men that were on board the HMBS Flamingo when it came under attack by Cuban MiGs. The 4 that were slaughtered in action: Austin Smith, Fenric Sturrock, David Tucker, Edward Williams. General salute. The 4 that passed on subsequent to that attack: Wilfred Sands, Oscar Miller, Leopold Kirby, Amos Roll. And the 11 that still remain living amongst us: Anthony Allens, Peterson James, Gregory Curry, Denzel Clark, Trevor Sands, John Wallace, Whitfield Neely, Willard Sanders, Anthony Russell, Eugene Thompson, and Cladwell Farrington. And there we have it, our most important maritime heroes in the history of this country. And again, they've been treated so shabbily. We're talking HMBS Flamingo people, from the cradle to the grave. So the keel of the Flamingo and the Marlin were laid side by side at Vosper Thornycroft in South England during 1977, with delivery being engaged during May 1978. So a year later, ship's ready. The selected crew were a combination of veteran police marine officers and the few good men that formed the genesis, the nucleus of what we know today as the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. So the ship wake-up sessions were undertaken in the waters off England prior to engaging the ensuing maiden voyage from England to the Bahamas. That's, I think, Southampton to Nassau. It could be wrong about Southampton. It could have been one, but it was to the south of England, eh? About 2 years following delivery, the Flamingo was destroyed by Cuban MiG fighter jets approximately 2 miles off Key Santo Domingo on the southern tip of the Columbus Banks. During the bombing, 4 of the 19 crewmen were killed. Some of the survivors were also scarred and grazed by missiles and bullets from gunshot firing as they scrambled to survive the swim from the sinking Flamingo to the arrested Cuban fishing vessels. All of the crew and prisoners were taken on board the operational fishing boat, as the other fishing boat was abandoned in the process. And when they did a count, there were 4 men missing: Austin Smith, Fenwick Stirrup, David Tucker, and Edward Williams. So they went out and they looked for these men. They sent a little sea rider, we call it Dory, out to try and find them, because petty officer at the time, Peterson James, was not about to give up. He went out there and he continued to search until dark fell. And of course, they're out in the ocean, just drifting along, all of them on board the Cuban fishing boat at this time. And they had to leave that area without 4 men. Do you know how disheartening that could be? You living with these people on board the patrol boat, and you realize that now we got to leave this area and we don't even know where these fellas are. We don't think they live in, because only us out there. We're miles away from land. So of course it's getting dark and they got to leave. And then what happened when they tried to leave? The boat couldn't steer. Hell raised because the Cubans dismantled the steering system. How did they do that? They took the steering pin out and put it in the bilge. Drop it in the bilge, knowing that if the ship can't steer, when their people come back, they can still be where they was. But we had one fella named Dusty. Oscar Miller on board. He wasn't about to have that. Dusty searched high and low until he ended up searching the bilge and finding that steering pin. And only then could they have left that area, and because obviously the boat is not under command if it can't steer. You wouldn't know, you'd just be going around in circles. So with the intuition of Dusty, they were able to leave that area. And, of course, the great captain, Amos Roll, ordered, darken ship. No lights on the ship. Turn all the lights off. We could be dark. Because perhaps he knew that those aircraft were coming back looking for them. Because 2 hours later, when they looked behind, the key was lit up like day. They were looking to see if anybody was on the key. They probably figured these fellas gone back to the key and waiting for somebody to come rescue them. But see, they didn't know Dusty was on board that vessel. They didn't know Commander Amos Roll was on board that vessel with the intuition to darken ships so they can't see them from the sky. And so, by way of finding that steering pin and darkening ship, they made it all the way to Ragged Island that same night. And then when they got to Ragged Island, they were to the south of Ragged Island. They wasn't in Duncantown. Mind you, Duncantown ain't that far, because Ragged Island is a small island. But you still needed to find your way to Duncantown. Get to the police station and let the police know you need to make this report. Our boat was blown up. Because ain't nobody in the world knew about this at this point. Only them. And thank goodness they had the two locals from Ragged Island on board who knew all the track roads to get to Duncantown from the southern area and where to go and how to get there. That was Leo Kirby and John Wallace. And they took them through the bush, along the track road trail, and they were able to get to that police station. And when they got to that police station, they were able to get that message out. So, message gone to Nassau, and around 9 o'clock the next morning, the Commodore of the Defense Force, William Spinley at the time, he and I was told the Commissioner of Police, but I hear somebody said it was Mr. Paul Thompson, and that probably is the case, but maybe it was two of them. They went in the police plane and they took a DC-3, as I understand it, to bring back the crew and the 8 prisoners. And they landed. And shortly thereafter, the Cuban MiGs returned. And I understand they were flying so low that the coconut trees were dancing on the island. They just terrorized that island, keep flying through and through very low, looking for these men. I guess they was looking for their men, I don't know. But then they had a personnel carrier aircraft landed on the airstrip with armed men, machine gun men, Army, Navy, Air Force, whatever you want to call them. They were rigged for war. Landed on the airstrip. And nobody moved, nobody had a commissioner, Commodore, Commander Amos Roll and his crew, the 8 prisoners, nobody could have moved. Mind you, they didn't know where the prisoners was. But they sat there for hours, not allowing anybody to move. You know what caused them to move? An F-14 or F-16, one of those high-end Air Force carriers or craft from the U.S. came and they buzzed the island to let the Cubans know, look here, it ain't happening. Y'all need to get out of there. Y'all ain't gonna hold these people hostage like this on our watch. And my understanding from a previous show last year is that there was a Bahamian who was working in Homestead base in South Florida. Homestead, you know, way south of Miami. He was working in Homestead, and he said he was there when the call came out to send that aircraft to Ragged Island because the Cubans are holding the Bahamians at bay. So I thought it came from Guantanamo Bay, but it didn't even come from that. It came all the way from Homestead. But you know what? When they came and they flew over, the Cubans left. And our Commodore and our Commissioner were able to get on board those aircraft with the 19 minus 4, which will be 15 seafarers from the HMBS Flamingo, and the 8 prisoners. And then they came to Nassau. And that's how this thing worked out, you know. That it wasn't no little easy operation for these fellas. And what they went through, no Bahamians ever went through. What they went through, no Bahamian will probably ever go through. You know, to be attacked by a war airplane. We never had nothing in our arsenal to do with war. We deal with patrols, not war. We deal with poachers, drug smugglers, and illegal immigrants. And we do some search and rescue. We ain't need no war weapons for that. We have no missiles on any craft. The biggest thing we got is a 20 millimeter gun. And guess what? That is not an automatic 20 millimeter that's hooked up to a computer that can train and pick up aircraft and whatnot. That's a manual 20 millimeter. That don't stand a chance to get against a warplane. So there you go, people. That fatal voyage. In a nutshell. And I go on. Since we got a couple more minutes before we get to the nitty gritty of what we can talk about tonight. Details of that final fatal voyage. The Flamingo departed Coral Harbor Base at 1400 on that Thursday. So 1400 meaning 2 p.m. Big day. Started began to see. Began to check the southern strips. Now remember, back in those days, the only 2 vessels which used to go that far south is the Marlin and the Flamingo, because they had the range. They could carry more fuel. They were faster. They could take seas better. So they were more equipped to do those southern voyages. So over and over again, when they come back from that way, they bring in Cuban. This is the first time we came across Cuban fishing boats, you know. This is going on from the police marine days. And they were going on even when I was on the force. I bring in a couple Cuban fishing boats because they're always in our waters. So they departed Coral Harbor at 1400 and they made their first stop. Since they leave so late, they leave 1400, a couple hours later it could be dark, eh? So they decided we could stop here at Green Key, which is halfway down to Blossom Channel. They got Blossom Channel, Lark Channel, what the next one name? Or give them a call and let me know, I forget. But a couple of them channels down there you got to go through to get to the Great Bahama Banks, eh? So they stop at Green Key, catch some fish, pick up some conch, do all the rest of that good stuff, and probably send a boarding team on the key to check. Because, you know, back then drugs was hot. And you could find drugs on almost any key at any given time. So, part of our MO, modus operandi, was to search whatever key we go near. So I have no doubt that they searched that key before they go on sleep. So the next morning, they proceeded to Grinchow's Key. And it took a while to get to Grinchow's Key, you know, because Grinchow's Key is like on the edge of the Great Bahama Bank. Once you pass Grinchow's Keys, you basically in the Santorin Channel, and the only thing you could reach if you keep going is Cuba. So you finish with the Bahamas when you pass Grinchow's Keys. So they stop at Grinchow's Key, and they spend the night there. Just hanging in the area. And when they wake up on Saturday morning, they just head out to the east. Of course, they head into Ragged Island. But you can't go to Ragged Island and don't pass Kilobos, eh? So you pass Kilobos, and when they got to Kilobos, that area, very similar to what happened when they got to Key Santo Domingo, they sighted 2 Cuban fishing vessels headed in the ocean toward Cuba. So you tell me that these fishing vessels were not alarmed or alerted that a patrol boat is heading towards them. I am convinced that they were, because it takes a while for a fishing boat to gather up all its resources and prepare to leave an area. They got dive boats in the water, this going on, that going on. It ain't by chance they cut their fishing expedition short because they were told that a patrol. They had to know. So they were too far away. Commander Roll said, look, we're not going to worry about them. Let them go where they're going. At least they're going out our waters. And they continued on to Ragged Island. All this in one day. Because, we talking about the Flamingo now. We talking about big time, fast. And the weather wasn't bad. So they got to Ragged Island, and of course they can't get through that canal in Ragged Island because they have too much draft. The Flamingo drew about 8 feet, 7.5, 8 feet. Even a 60-footers would have a difficulty because that canal they have, it silts and sand builds up again, and sometimes it could be very dangerous. So they wouldn't go in there. And as the crew started to prepare to take the Sea Rider into Ragged Island, I remember they get 2 Ragged Island people on board. They want to go hail the family and whatnot. Commander Roll decided, hey, we ain't getting in here. We're going to Key Santo Domingo to do a round, a sweep of the Columbus Banks, and come back. Because it was a little early, eh? So they did that. And when they got to the Key Santo Domingo area, they saw the 2 vessels starting to head out. Now, they said probably, the message probably didn't tell them. The message probably told them, well, okay, they anchor off Ragged Island, so you all should be okay. But don't let them meet you in the morning. But they didn't have enough time. So they were caught. They were trying to depart. Shots were fired. They had to get warning shots. They didn't pay no attention to that. So they had to shoot out the engine of one of the vessels. Shoot out the engine and dismantle it. Cause them to stop. Of course, they ain't shoot nobody. They shoot the engine. And that's what caused them. And then when one stopped, the next one stopped. Because they're operating together. And that's what happened. So they abducted those 2 vessels. They were taking them in tow. Because around this time they were eating dinner, eh? They were taking them in tow. And when they were about to leave, the MiGs came. Fire a couple warning shots in water. And then they came back. And they started to carry on bad. They sink the boat, blow up the boat, shooting at the fellas in the water. And based on what I understand, I don't think they were trying to kill the guys in the water, but they were shooting, just trying to frighten them, I guess. And then some of them ended up getting shot anyway. At least the coverall, and some got grazed, and we believe that the men in the water got shot, the ones who didn't make it, right? And to sum it all up, a little better than I could sum it up, is the poem dedicated to the 19 men, written and narrated by my good friend, Captain Godfrey Gordon Roll, for the love of country. And you're not going to hear this anymore until next year rolls around, ladies and gentlemen, because no poem could be written better than this to capture what took place on that fatal voyage. Godfrey Gordon Roll.
Sun is shining, oh what a lovely day, as the balmy breezes over the waters do play. HMBS Flamingo and crew are now eager to sail. We have our duties to perform, and we shall not fail. There are arms and victuals and water enough. Our good ship is ready, be the seas calm or rough. So away from Coral Harbor we did slip. Ah, no one knew we'd be seeing the last of our ship. Throttles are engaged, engines put in gear. We have a long way to go, let's get out of here. Flamingo has been assigned a southern patrol, sailing under the command of Commander Amos Rowe. See the young crew members all lining the deck. The rolling seas have such a soothing effect. Oh, brave young man, do you not know what evil winds your way doth blow? An anchorage is sought for the night at Green Key, for the wind have come up the ship must seek leave. Some crew members tell tales to pass away the time, while others on deck cast out fishing lines. Morning has come and anchors weighed. The first lieutenant's orders have been swiftly obeyed. Flamingo once again turns her bow to the south as a course is laid on for Blossom Channel's mouth. The ship is abuzz and spirits are high. We all feel as one with the ocean and sky. Through the channel we go, down the Ragged Island chain, through gin-clear waters. What an ethereal scene. Now a few days have passed, lazy and slow. Flamingo for fuel to Inago must go. Refueled, she's again ready to hit the banks. There's great anticipation from men of all ranks. Today, this will be our lucky day. An arrest, no doubt, will come our way. Lookouts are stationed all around the ship, while the raider man watches for that elusive blip. We're again off Ragged Island, combing the banks. We love our jobs and need no special thanks. To serve our country is all that we ask. Brave young Bahamian men, fully committed to a task. This day is Sunday, the 10th of May. Oh, gloomy, dreadful, fateful day. Would to God you could forever be wiped away. Weary is my soul from the weights upon it lay. I have a contact, the radar watch shouts. It's 5 miles away and bearing due south. The skipper is summoned out of his cabin, while Flamingo leaps ahead as more power is given. The boarding party all assembled is standing by, all fully equipped, weapons pointing to the sky. Go forth, brave souls, your duty calls. Stand tall, each one, whatever befalls. As mighty Flamingo steams nearer and nearer, the contact we see grows clearer and clearer, until by the light of the blazing sun we could see a fishing vessel from some foreign country. A feeling of joy now descends on the crew, for what we first thought was one is now confirmed as two. 2 arrests now instead of 1 to be made. 2 arrests will now to our credit be laid. Both vessels are now fully in our possession. We've only to wait for the crew's confession. All in all, it has been a productive day, and very soon we begin again to be underway. Hark there, fellow Marines, from whence comes that sound that seems to permeate the air all around? Wait, look over yonder, look to the sky. Are they not military aircraft that pass us by? Look again, my mates, they are coming around, flying low over the waters with a thunderous sound. Can someone tell what is the meaning of this? Will fear now overtake our early bliss? Oh, brave young men, strong Bahamian sons, your time has come to face hostile guns. This day will be recorded in our Defense Force story as the day young Bahamian sailors achieved eternal glory. Captain, my captain, we are now under attack. Those aircraft which first passed have now come back. See the bullets now piercing Flamingo's sleek side. What shall we do? There's no place to hide. The crew is assembled and Coral Harbor Base is now told of these tragic events as they continue to unfold. Alas, we must now abandon our ship, and soon under the waves she began to slip. Captain, look over there. They're now shooting in the water. Surely they intend our young men to slaughter. I hear even now a sailor's pitiful cry. Oh Lord, I'm hit. Please don't let me die. The aircrafts at last have gone away, leaving strong young men in shock and dismay. And as some semblance of order is brought to the scene, we cannot account for 4 brave young Marines. Austin Smith, Fenwick Stirrup, Edward Williams, and David Tucker. Wherever you may be, may your soul find sweet succor. You've served your shipmates and country for many long years, and many will be the days of your memories with tears. O Bahamian mothers, on this Mother's Day, I pray that God wipes your tears away. Your sons have gone down into the deep, but our God in heaven their souls will keep. And now in their honor, young Bahamians strong and free step forth with pride to save their country. So to the survivors of Flamingo and to those heroes who died, a grateful nation gives it thanks and pray God be your guide.
Gentlemen, that is the voice of my good friend, Godfrey Gordon Roll, Captain Retired. What a poem. Why, my dear listener, why should these men and their families live on in turmoil? I say reparation now. Do these 11 men and the families of the fallen 8 soldiers have to sue the government of the Bahamas for compensation and reparation? I say $1 million for the family of any government employee murdered whilst in the line of duty. And I use the term murdered. I should say killed. Because even if they accidentally die, they died serving the country in the line of duty. Policemen, defense force, prison, customs, immigration, healthcare workers, all of them can die in the process of serving our country. And what happens when they die? They're treated like the regular person who dies that is not even putting their life on the line while serving their country. So I say $1 million from the Treasury. This ain't nothing to do with no insurance. For the family of any government employee that loses their life whilst in the line of duty. So we have other people that should be compensated. I say $1 million for any person that causes the country flag to raise in the eyes of the world. Now, if you could make our flag raise and our national play while the whole world is watching, you should be given $1 million every time that happens. Country can't really pay for that. You know what kind of publicity that is? And this happens where? At Olympics. The world watches the Olympics. The Bahamas flag goes up. The national anthem is played. If you win a gold medal. So for anybody that can win a gold medal in the Olympics, $1 million for each time they do it. I say $3 million each for any person that faces unfair attack from another country military might. Unless, of course, the Bahamas reaches that level where we are equally equipped to combat such a force. But until we get there, if we are attacked by any country's military power and lose our life, because we're not prepared for that, we're not trained for that, then the Treasury should pay out $3 million each anytime that happens. It only happened once in my lifetime. It only happened once in the history of this country. And we're only talking about how much people, 19 people being on board that ship. 4 got killed. So we're now only talking about 15. That really should be getting at least $3 million. They should have gotten that back then. $3 million back then and $3 million today is a big difference. But let's still give it to them, eh? And give it to anybody else that this happened to. I say $5 million for the family of each of those men that were slaughtered during that attack. They were slaughtered by enemy military attack weapons during peacetime. They were not trained to fight back at military aircraft. They were trained to abduct poachers, trained to abduct immigrants, illegal immigrants on high seas, trained to combat drug smugglers. So they had heavier weapons than those people, eh? But when you get a military attack coming from the sky, you ain't got nothing to defend against that. You ain't got no training, you ain't got no weapons, you ain't got nothing. You just a sitting duck getting slaughtered. You tell me that ain't worth $5 million if that happened? $5 million is small. But that's all we asking. Come on, government of the Bahamas, sort these people out. It ain't never too late to do the right thing. Up to now, they haven't gotten one dime. Except the Cuban money that paid for the 4 men that they slaughtered. Our government gave them nothing. Our treasury gave nobody nothing. Come on, let's correct that. Let's get that right. Some of these guys still living among us. The families of those who died still suffering. Sort it out. Reparation, compensation, satisfaction. Now I say now. Numbers to call 326-8255. You're listening to Maritime Matters, people. On this show, we talk maritime. That's 326-8255. Now from Flamingo, we go to our hot topics, eh? We talk about the government to remove shanty homes via the Building Regulations Act. Think we got a call on the line? Producers, got a call on the line? Caller, good night to you. Welcome to Maritime Matters.
Yes, sir. You would not know how much that poem touched my heart as a Bahamian. It made me cry because, I was a young fella when that happened. I was a young chap, and it made me want to just go and fight the whole Cuban nation. Not just because of war, but you touch our brothers.
You felt what I felt, sir. That's the reason why I ended up joining the Defense Force.
Right. Any one of our little children at age 18. We got children now. You could imagine your son and daughter out there working for the country and getting slaughtered.
Or your brother or sister. Or your neighbor.
Well, having the opportunity to go to Cuba, right?
Yes.
The whole situation was explained by Alma Adams. She said that it was a Cuban big-timer who was on one of the vessels. And he made a call that they were being attacked by pirates.
That's exactly what took place, yes?
It was not the case because they saw the ensign, the colors and everything. They knew. All the Pharisees that fish around these territories were normally going into the territory and fishing in the Bahamian waters. Even back in the day, the Cuban brothers, the Castro brothers, were beaten out of Quezal Bank by the Bahamian police. And they rose a Cuban flag and they got beaten. They was 19, 20 around there about. And they were rebellious. But Alma Adams, she took us around. We met all the politicians. Even Fidel Castro's brother.
Yes.
That was ailing. But the Cubans, if they had only known, the hierarchy had only known that this would have, we've been back in Cuba from the Pinling era, making sure that they were not taken advantage of. But that right there hurt us as a country, and which is why we always had that standoff approach. You can't hurt our people. Bahamian people don't do nothing, We just right here, they say docile, but hurting us is a mark forever. And we can't look at you the same way, although we respect you as brothers and sisters in the Caribbean.
That's right.
The Cubans had to go and ask for somebody to assist and be a go-between. It was the Bahamians they came to, the Bahamas government under Linden.
That's right. But caller, do you realize that these men,
they're hurting. They didn't get the money.
They got nothing from our country.
John Boswick was the lawyer and the attorney, yo habla español muy bueno. But he explained to me, he was the lawyer for the Cuban government. He said that it was about $40 million that was compensation for the ship, and another maybe about $15 million for the men or whatever. Why they were?
No. I can tell you what it was.
Okay.
It was $3.5 million
Right, for the men.
for the ship.
For the ship. Oh, wow. Less
Yeah.
than that?
The men out of that got $400,000, $100,000 each, and that's only for the 4 men that got killed.
Terrible.
The man who was scrambling in the water with all that fear got absolutely. They didn't even console them after they got it.
Thanks for coming to dinner, because you could have been sharp meat.
They even didn't tell them thanks.
Yeah, and I mean, come on, he's a senior man now. I know Mr. Curry. I know a couple of the other senior men. But I mean, our country needs to do more.
We need to do more. We need to do something.
We're borrowing billions.
They ain't do nothing.
The children getting left with this yoke around their neck. It's slavery again. But you are not compensating our senior men and our senior women. What are you doing?
Yeah, but you could borrow $250 million to buy boats and dredge harbors?
And the money end up someplace in an unnumbered bank account.
Well, I getting it up. That's the call.
Hey, brother, listen to me, brother. Every single deal that's taken place,
Yes, sir.
and any monies that are borrowed, check C-bonds internationally and see what the Bahamas government owes. But it's like a big robbery. If you bring in $2 billion to borrow, I'm going to tell you the truth. Which percentage of that actually goes in the country? Look at our roads.
Yeah. You are hitting the nail on the head, but I don't want to take too much from what these fellas should have gotten.
Okay, good. They should get the money. Give them the money while they
We need the reparation for these fellas' families, man.
Reparation is a must.
It's a must. And we're not going to let it go.
Keep harping at it because they know what they should do. But you can't let these men die in vain.
Oh, no. We see 8 of them already died.
We should have gold coins for all of these warriors.
I don't mind the coins, I don't mind the coins. I don't mind the king's honors. I don't mind. But no, let's get the millions of dollars in their coffers so that they can enjoy themselves before they die.
That is true, sir.
That's what I'm focusing on.
Aye.
Don't give me nothing. I ain't going through nothing. Give it to them.
Yes. God bless Bahamas land, sir.
Thank you so much for calling, my friend.
God bless the great.
I know the voice, so I ain't saying nothing.
Yes. God bless the great warriors.
Thank you very, very, very much. That was just such an impacting call. And the caller said that the ambassador, Ms. Alma Adams, would have shared some things with him. And there were a lot of things to share. Because back then, shortly after we had to chase people off of Kisal. Now, I'm hearing now that maybe one of the Castros was involved or both of them. I don't know those details. But people were chased off Kisal, and the police had to keep presence there for years. And I know because my daddy, the man that brought me up as my father, was a police. And he went to Kisal. And I used to go for 3 months. And that's Sergeant 12 Adley, Edward Adley, God bless his soul. He brought me up like his child. From the time before I was a teenager until I joined the Defense Force. And he actually signed off on my documents to join the Defense Force. And I thank him so much. But he actually went to Kisal, and back then Defense Force didn't exist. So the police used to have people stay on that key. And when Defense Force came around, I made some trips. Because I was in charge of the vessel, the Montague, the Fort, HMBS Fort Montague, that used to do the trip every month. I was in charge of Montague for about a year and a half. So I know the details of Kisal and when we were there and why we were there, and we had to keep presence there. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to make a quick call, you only got 5 minutes left. 326-8255. We're not going to get into no nitty-gritties of the government removing those shanty towns. We already know that the regulations allow them to do it. They ain't giving us no timeline. And until I see a timeline, I ain't taking them serious. Because the government is good at fluffing. They will tell you what you want to hear, and then just take the do nothing approach, eh? So why haven't they started yet? If the building regulations give them the right to take those shanty towns down, when they can start, where they can start, let me know. And they're going further to say plans for building code overhaul to be revealed by September. We don't have no problem with you making the building code a little more strict for the hurricanes coming a little stronger. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it costs us a little more money to build a house. But we wanted to be able to withstand hurricanes as best we could. So come on, throw it in there. But they would exist, give you enough to take those shanty towns down. They violate every law we could think of. How they get light? They don't have the environmental act is violated because they don't have cesspit, no toilets to flush, and they're just throwing things out in the yard. I could tell you, I've seen it. Come on, man, let's get together and stamp these shanty towns out, eh? And then we got the next big elephant in the room. Work permits. It said the private sector help needed as labor and immigration law changes mulled. In other words, while we considering we could change these laws, we want injection from the private sector. Fine. But what need to change in the law? We're trying to pacify them because they went ahead and hired all these foreigners over Bahamians. Okay, line one, I'm with you. Maritime Matters. Good evening, caller. Thank you for calling.
Good evening, Captain Bain. This is
Captain Bain. Go right ahead, my brother. Take us into the next 5 minutes, please.
You know, Cap, very interesting topics as usual. First of all, I would like to say that I fully agree that the folks, those heroes who represented us on that fateful morning, their families should be compensated, and I fully endorse that. And I again call and I endorse the fact that we should start with not only if we can get the remuneration immediately, let's get the naming of those roads that we will have discussed on numerous occasions, right? But you know, relative to the shantytown and this whole immigration business, you know, this is a major problem, and it speaks to the fact that this country is endemically corrupt from top to bottom. And it's always been this way. We had, I think, and Drexel Gomez many years ago, I think it was 84, if I'm not mistaken, that concluded that, right?
Yep.
And the situation has not changed. This whole business of work permit and whatnot, why should we be every year without fail? This whole issue comes up, and every year we keep doing the same thing year after year. And as a matter of fact, I would dare say, if you check to see how many work permits was issued systematically over the years, I could be wrong, but I would dare to say that it has increased dramatically.
But they just tell us, you know. They just tell us.
The question is why?
Because the corruption is so systemic that they have this down pack, and the people who make money every year gotta continue making money. They don't care but the country. And
then we have this whole issue of certain people in this country or certain entities in this country who the government pander to, and when we look at the spend of the government in particular, right? For example, we look at the amount of cars that we buy every couple of years, whether it's national insurance, whether it's police vehicles, whatever. There's always this spend that has to occur. And I put it to you, Campaign, that something is wrong. You do a probe, and you see why, and you see this whole business of who getting this money. This is a revolving door.
You see the port, you see the new port being owned by Global Port Holdings. You know how much money is going to be leaving our country to go wherever Global Port Holdings want the money to go?
Of course, indeed.
What nonsense is that? Why should we own this port? Are we basically selling it? Why couldn't we just do what we did with the airport and hiring the services of Global Port Holdings, but we still own it?
Yeah, because this whole concept of Bahamianization that Sir Lyndon was advocating for way back in the day, that is out of the window. This whole everything is about benefit to certain individuals, and if certain individuals don't benefit, then I'm sorry to say it does not happen.
We don't have time for that no more. We're working on other things. We're working on things where money could make.
We have to build a nation. We can't build a nation on shaky foundation. The foundation has to be solid, and it got to be inclusive. Everybody got to be a part of laying the foundation brick by brick. And if you don't involve everybody in the process, if you move everybody forward as the nation moves, then you're going to always have a problem, and there's always going to be an issue where something does not line up the way it ought to. So I think we got to take a long, hard look at how we choose, not only how we do business in this country, but how we choose the people who represent us. And only then will we understand, will we be able to control our destiny as a people. And so that's my point. I think I'm not no political advocate, but at the end of the day, that's where all the chips fall right at the feet of who we choose. And until we decide to choose honest men with integrity, men and women with integrity, who's going to have our backs, then and only then will we'll be able to move our country forward.
I'm hearing you loud and clear, maybe, but the only difference I would have with what you had to say just now about who we choose, I think the system itself needs to be attacked, because whoever you choose is going to fall into a system that is so corrupt. It's very difficult for them to get out of that, because the people who put them there want some of that corruption too. So we got to change the system, no matter who's there. And we can only do that. We can only do that through protesting. We can't wait for the government to change to say we can do something. We got to do it by the government in the chair.
Well, the thing is,
let's call for the protest, and when we call for protest, some of these people is.
We can't come together on nothing.
We could. We just need to be able. We need to do it. We could come together, you know. And a lot of times, I know we had some protests being called to deal with certain issues, and people always looking at the messenger. Forget the messenger. Let's support the message.
Indeed.
And that's why we need to go in this country, and things will start tumbling down.
Indeed.
Corruption will start getting cracks until it fall apart.
Indeed.
Well, you had the last say, my brother. Thank you so much for calling. You know, I was wondering if I could make it a whole night, and I couldn't get rescued.
Thank you for the opportunity. And
yes, sir.
I continue to support the show, because I think that you are doing a wonderful job, and the Bahamian people will thank you futuristically for the effort that you're making today.
Thank you for that input, my brother. You know you're my good friend, so if I hear that from you, I need to hear that from nobody else. Take care of yourself, man. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's my best friend right there. He don't listen in all the time. He's getting a little slack sometimes, but boy, he always have right on point contributions. The great Commander Herbert Bain. With that, we are bringing our show to a close. We're a couple minutes over. Boy, look here. You see why I tell you I got the greatest producer in the world? Because he don't cut nobody and tell me cut nobody. So, my sponsors for the night again: One-on-One Pharmacy, Island Care in Freeport, and of course, Bahamas Maritime Connection. Anime, good night to you, honey. You know, you're my bestest buddy, my biggest supporter. I didn't hear from my girl Veronique Johnson tonight, but she know she's in my heart, and I know she's going to give us a call next lap. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to our show, Maritime Matters. Next week, we're going to have a guest, somebody that traveled the world on cruise ships. I can't wait to get in here to let you know how she hooked up with that cruise ship, what she did on that cruise ship, and she went for months all over the world. My good friend is going to be with us next week. With that, I say to you, as always, Maritime Matters, out.
Sitting on a darker bay, wasting time.
Good times, great oldies.